So I want to build a home lab. And if you're here, maybe you do too. I've tried a couple of times to build a home lab over the past 3 years and failed, but this time's different. Today I'll be going over the goals for why I'm building a home lab, why I'm documenting this whole process, and where I'll be starting. So follow along and welcome to my home lab journey.
Test.
My name's Jared, and for the past 3 years, I've been working for a small tech startup. For those that work in small startup cultures, especially those with 5 to 10 people, probably know that your title and role don't mean a lot. You're kind of doing everything. So for me, as a program manager, I was doing everything from cloud engineering to data engineering, full stack development, and everywhere in between. When I joined the startup, it had been almost 8 years since I had graduated college. And in those 8 years, I had been in the Navy driving submarines. So the tech world had changed so much in those 8 years that I didn't even know what I was looking at anymore. Cloud computing was all the rage now. Containerization was what everybody was using, and those words didn't mean a ton to me. And so I had to learn really, really quickly. But what I noticed was the knowledge gap between myself and the competent engineers I worked with was so large that I didn't know how to overcome it. It was intimidating. So the best way for me to start learning was to do stuff at home. And I did a bunch of side projects and, tinkered with various platforms and technologies, but nothing ever consistently, and nothing ever resulted in anything tangible. Fast forward to today, and I'm taking control of that. We're going to go on this home lab journey together, where we are going to learn and expose ourselves to so many different technologies. First, we're going to go over my goals for what I want to accomplish and what I want to do with this home lab. Mag's a rare freaking story. My doggy over there. She's cute. I really encourage you to do the same thing if you're just getting started or interested in building a home lab. Building this list of goals helped me identify the projects I wanted to tackle, and also the list of items that I needed to purchase or needed to figure out if I had already at home to accomplish those projects. So my first goal in my home lab journey is to learn stuff and gain new skills. That's really the driving force behind all of this. You really need to be boots on the ground to understand a lot of this technology. And I know many out there will argue that you don't need a home lab to do a lot of this, and you can just use it with existing cloud platforms such as AWS and Azure. And I'll say in my work, I use that almost exclusively. But I think there's a lot of principles that get lost in the cloud architecture, such as virtualization and how things are really orchestrated together, because the cloud handles a lot of that for you, which is really nice. And I'll probably cover a lot of cloud-based videos and integrate a lot of that content into this channel. But my biggest focus is on the hardware side, because I think that's my biggest knowledge gap, is the hardware side and what's really happening under the hood. Goal number 2 is to have fun. I think creating a hobby or an interest outside of work and on the side that is just more work that you don't find fulfilling and fun is always going to fail. And maybe that's why my other attempts at a home lab have failed. So you've got to keep it fun, you've got to keep it interesting, and you've got to be continuously curious. Now, that's easier said than done. So how do you do that? For me, it's going to be creating projects that are fun. The best example is one of the projects that I have on the list that I want to tackle is setting up a local Minecraft server for me and my son that we can play on. Now, a lot of you will probably say, well, that's pretty easy. But the way I'd like to deploy this is deploying that Minecraft server on a Kubernetes cluster. And so there's going to be a lot of layers and probably mini videos on how we're actually going to stand that up. I've got a couple of pieces of hardware that I've purchased, and I've also have lying around the house. I'll go over kind of what I have purchased to be completely transparent of kind of what I'm doing, and that'll be at the end of this video. My plan right now for this is to use Proxmox as the operating system, and then create virtualized control and worker nodes running on top of Proxmox that I'll then deploy Minecraft servers onto. Well, one Minecraft server onto. And maybe this is a bit Inception, virtualization on virtualization, but this is how the cloud works too. So it's not that crazy. And you'll learn a ton by doing this. At least I hope to. Goal number 3 is to teach my son. As you can tell by the name of this YouTube channel, being a dad is a huge part of who I am. And inspiring and teaching the younger generation has just become so important to me since I've become a dad. My son's 4 years old, so how much is he really going to understand right now? Probably not a lot. But if he sees me doing this and he gains an interest in it, and I explain to him how we've set up Minecraft and how it's running, maybe it'll all be a mess, and maybe he won't remember. Maybe we'll be creating core memories and it'll inspire him one day. Goal number 4 is to gain control over my digital footprint. At least that's what I'm calling it. In today's world, the digital landscape is all around us, and it's integrated into our everyday life. Everything from cloud storage to watching this video on YouTube or whatever platform you're watching this on, and how we're exposed is sometimes alarming. Now, I do want to start by saying there are loads of services and technologies that exist that you can purchase that will protect you. But for those of you like me that want to really understand what's going on and to have control of your digital footprint and how you're exposed to the internet, this is really important to you. 2 great examples of this. One is the first project, which I've already completed and I'll make a video on soon, is creating a DIY router. I chose to use pfSense. I've learned a ton in just getting it set up initially, and there's so much more I want to do with it, so much more tinkering. And so that's going to be great and probably result in several videos that hopefully others can learn from. I'll say I learned a ton from Network Chuck. I followed his installation process from 2 years ago, and for the most part, it worked. There's some differences with how you set up pfSense, but for the most part, it worked. And maybe an update video is needed because, it has changed. And my second project is cloud storage, taking control of your files. I have my files, my family's files and photos really spread across 3 different providers. And it makes organization and finding things quite difficult. And most recently, I'm trying to organize my thoughts, and creating a centralized location for all of that is really important. And so syncing across these platforms are quite difficult. I might make a video on that as well, because I struggled with that for many hours last night. But if I would create my own cloud or my own storage center locally on premises in my house that is accessible anywhere, which is something you can do, it would be amazing. And I would have so much more flexibility in what I am able to do and what my family could do, which is really cool. I'll share the full list of projects that I have right now in the video description. I actually have a blog where I'll be tracking what I'm doing, the projects I have planned, and then also a link to my GitHub where I'll be documenting as much as possible and sharing as much as possible so others can use what I've created or what I've found, and links to other cool GitHub projects. I really hope to make this a great resource for those that are curious about technology and want to learn. So why am I documenting this process? Like I said at the beginning of the video, I failed many times trying to build a home lab, and a consistent process for me to keep learning. And so hopefully this will help. I also hope to build a community. I think there's many others out there that are either interested in getting into this technology and they just don't know where to start, and maybe I inspire them, or folks that don't have the time or the money to get into this and just want to learn. And hopefully I provide a entry-level perspective on different technologies and things that are possible. And then maybe they'll also want to join in this craziness. I also hope to bring in some experts. There's tons of YouTube channels that I've followed and that I'm fans of that have inspired me. Network Chuck, Techno Tim, I know there's many other experts out there that could help guide me. And I hope to see you in the comment section. I'll include a link to everything I'm about to list in the video description. So my first idea is to build a mini rack. I've seen tons of YouTube videos out there from the folks I mentioned before that have created these mini racks. And I don't want to invest the time or the money to create something bigger. And I don't need a ton. So I bought the Geek Pie mini rack. I got the shorter version. I think this is 9 inches. There's a 15-inch version also available. I've thought about purchasing it many times, but at the end of the day, I don't want the extra space because I know I would want to fill it up. If you're like me, just go with the smaller one, especially if you're just getting in. I then got the patch panel attachment for the Geek Pie. This was pretty cheap. It's great for cable management. I will say I am the worst at cable management. That's probably the biggest thing I need to work on. And so this helps a little. If anybody has recommendations on cable management, please drop those in the comments. Any videos for me to look at, that would be great. Then I 3D printed a shelf for my switch. I've got a Netgear 8-port switch. This Geek Pie unit that I bought only came with one shelf, which is what you see on the bottom here. I might buy another shelf or print another shelf in the future, but for now, this is fine. My core kind of compute piece to my home lab are 2 Lenovo ThinkCenters that I purchased off of Amazon. I think pre-owned or used, refurbished, whatever. And they were both about $100 a pop. I'll give the specs and links again below. You can check them out, but plenty of compute, plenty of horsepower to do what I want to do with them and run Proxmox and some VMs. So I also bought a Raspberry Pi and kind of this case and everything that honestly I don't need. I'll probably just end up mounting this Pi inside of the rack somehow, but still cool. It's a Raspberry Pi 4. I also had this Pi 2 lying around, I'll probably use that in some way, also not really sure. The last piece of hardware that I purchased is this Protectly Vault V1410, and I purchased this to run pfSense on specifically. Honestly, this is probably a little overkill to run pfSense. I really thought about running pfSense as a VM and maybe installing Proxmox on here and then installing pfSense on top. I'll go into the video of why I didn't do that. I did a bare metal install of pfSense. Maybe I'll change that in the future, but for now, it works. The V1410 was a little expensive. You'll see in the price list. I think it ran me about $330. I think it was about $330. You definitely don't need to spend that much money to buy something and run a router on. Really, you just need enough NICs to be able to have to have a WAN and a LAN port, and you should be good. There's a great video that Network Chuck did on setting up a DIY router with pfSense and kind of explains how he did it. I'll link that below. I have my own video here shortly, and for the newer install, hopefully some people can gain some use out of that as well. Everything that I just described here, I purchased with the exception of the Pi 2. If you made it this far in the video, I just want to say thanks. Please like and subscribe and comment below on what you think about my approach. What are you working on in your home lab? And any recommendations you have for me moving forward. I'm really excited to keep making content like this and to share the knowledge that I'm gaining and to create a community where we can all learn together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.